อาจารย์โรสลิน and today I will be presenting the impacts of COVID-19 on global economy. First, let me extend this presentation. Okay. First thing first, I'll start with the introduction of this presentation. So, all over the world is facing the challenge of COVID-19. And we will discuss the effect of the COVID-19 on the global economy as a whole. Because of the pandemic, countries come to a difficult decision whether to impose a lockdown on the country or to open up and reconstruct the economy of the country. So this measure, however, has the inverse impacts on the economy. And because of COVID-19 as well, the global economy shrinks in size and also result in the recession because of the loss of jobs and income. So clearly, COVID-19 is not only deadly to human bodies and health, but it also causes serious damages to the global economy. First, I'll talk about the impact of COVID-19 on the service sector. After the pandemic hit, the service and the retail sectors like hospitalities, tourism, retailers, restaurants, they're all being hit really hard, and because there's a drastic drop in the movement of people around the world. People are restricted from traveling, so there's no foreign tourists coming in to the country to spend their money, or people going out to other countries to spend their money. The countries limit the inbound and outbound of the tourists. The developing country that rely profoundly on tourism, like country like Thailand, suffer greatly. So, and the rate of unemployment strikes as many businesses collapse from the sharp decline of the demand. And another reason is that the labor in those sectors face kind of hardship in the job conversion. For example, the workers who are in the hospitality sector, who has been graduated from the faculty of hospitality or tourism, they find it quite hard to convert their job into like a farmer or a primary producer or being something else in the other field other than the tourism. So it may take longer time to adapt, or maybe some of them cannot adapt at all. So there's this difficulty making them making it even harder for them to find a job. So this downfall in tourism industry affect negatively on the GDP of the country in terms of unemployment, in terms of national income, and also in terms of taxes. Next, the impact on customers' behaviors. So there's the large proportion of the customers depend on the daily income because the majority of the spender are the workers, the laborers. So when the COVID-19 strike, they lose job, they lose their main source of income. So there's a decline in consumers' demand and spending. And since the countries are forced to ban the entry of foreign tourists, domestic consumers are the important source of income to the country. And because of COVID-19 as well, the living cost rises and people become more careful in their spending. The loss of confidence in the financial in their own financial and also losing confidence in the government because there's been really bad consequences of the COVID-19. So people has been questioning the capability of their own financial ability, and also how the government would manage the economy for them. So there's a decline in the consumer demand. Also that consumers spending more time at home. Like there is a new normal that there has to be social distancing and working from home, study from home. So there is a change in lifestyle, and also decline in business activities such as in transportation, in logistics, and also in, for example, going to the mall. In the past, you have to taking a trip like driving a car, taking public transport or taxi to the mall to shop. In the present right now, there's less movements of sort. People actually shop at home. So it's entering the new era where businesses need to approach the customers, not the customers going to the business anymore. But then the positive side of this is to make that the business more resilient and also more flexible in the long term. Also, there are changes in lifestyle platforms such as online purchases, food delivery, and etc. And also it's changing in market players. The shifting of the power of the consumers and the producers. Right now, the consumers actually have even more power to in the market because their demand is really important to the income of the producers and other sectors. Next, I'll talk about the impact on the investment and technologies. So the country where they have a lot of short-term investments from the foreigners, those investors actually withdraw their capitals when the COVID hit. And also there are reluctance of the investors investing new things in the foreign countries because of the COVID-19 and the worsened economy. So it comes to the economic downturn because of the strict social distancing, restriction in movements of the foreigners. So it leads to the decrease in foreign direct investor and also the countries who has the emerging economies face even more hardship than ever because they are already struggled in the past whereby COVID isn't there. Right now they even suffer more because of the strict restriction in the movements of the foreigners. So let me talk about the technology. So after the COVID-19 and the new normal, people work from home, study from home. So there has been a great improvements in communication and telecommunication technologies, and it's becoming the permanent change to the world. And also the emergence of the new methods of payments to reduce the physical contact, such as like mobile banking, QR code banking, and also like online platform for them to shop, like for the rider, the Grab or Food Panda, also like the third party going to shop for you, so you don't have to go to the shopping mall anymore. And also the presence of the e-commerce platforms. So it shows the adaptation of the businesses. Like the restaurant no longer has to have like tables and chairs to serve the customers who will come in and eat anymore. So they join the platforms such as Grab Food, Food Panda to provide that service to the customers without directly giving them the service themselves. And also there will be more diverse investment because people are now realizing the danger of the value of the money, of the cash that they carry, that in the future the value of them may decrease, so they have to shift their assets into something else, such as stocks, capitals, Bitcoin, blockchain, that kind of investment, or maybe like buying of lands and house, gold, diamond, something that has substitutable values to the cash that they carry. Next will be the impacts on the public sectors or the government. So the government are now forced to face between the health and economic trade-off. For example, in response to attempt in economic recovery, they have to decide whether to reopen the country or to the foreigners to come in and spend their money and diversify the spending of the money, or becoming more isolated from international trade and investment to protect their people from the virus. The state aids, the state assistance and intervention in healthcare and in labor market has becoming more significant because people are now facing difficulties and they need help from the government to actually improve their lives. Okay, so next will be the people questioning the capability of the government. So there may be the possibility of the reform of governance and social orders as the people now realizing that the current system has been inefficient and there needs of the improvements of the system. Also, the capacity on the fiscal and monetary support from the government is really important because like the policymaker has to revise and come up with more innovative measures to help to maintain income of the workers and also the economy of the country. But then there's also the rising debts in the public sector because they has to borrow money from other countries in order to maintain their economy, because some of the countries lack of this monetary support, so they has to rely on other countries' money support so they can survive. So there has been a rising debts of those countries. So it has been great challenges to the government to maintain the social order, address the inequalities, because the inequality gaps has been widened so much from the COVID-19 as well, because the worst one has been even worsened, and even the good ones are now like worsened, but then maybe not, the impact is not as bad as those in the bad shape, or those who are already in the bad shape, but then they has been also worsened overall. Also to control the pandemic and also to ensure the survival of the domestic economy. Next, the impact on international trade and relations. So there has been the reverse in globalization, questioning the liability of the globalization, because the definition of globalization is the movement of people or products and goods. But since the COVID-19 hit, there has been restriction on the movements, and also there has been less movements of everything, because it has to halt the virus spreading. There also has been integration of the supply chain, so this may raise the food security issues in some of the countries, and also setbacks on trade. So because there has been restriction in the inspections and also higher standards for the goods entering and leaving the countries, and also there has been a stern strict procedures on traded products. So there may be the lengthen longer time to deliver your products, because it has to remain in inspection for a longer time for the inspection for the virus and also for the in other procedures that they has to do to prevent the virus from entering the country. And this actually contribute to the high logistic costs in import and export sectors as well. So the country has to reduce the dependency on the import. And there has been a trade imbalance which can lead into political tensions. For example, the previous trade war between the US and China, and that has been impact on the political relation because China is like where COVID-19 has started. So there has been tension building up towards the Chinese and the China itself. So China has to convey other countries to believe that they are here to help, they're here to be a friend. So they have to provide assistance in financial and in healthcare, and also like, for example, giving some of the debt reliefs to the African countries. So they will change the perception, the bad perception of Chinese people and China itself. Next will be the impact on the global finances. So there has been a transition of global currency. Okay. In the Great Depression in 1930s, there has been the conversion from the euros to the US dollar. So now the question has been raised again whether the currency will be changing from US dollar to yuan. So it's a question that many economists has been wondering in the future whether the global currency will change. And there has been the development in financial technology, like the rise of Bitcoin, the rise of blockchain, cryptocurrency, and all those kind of things that people are more interested in now. And also there are holes in income and balance sheet right now. Because of the pandemic, people losing income, the income gap becoming even larger, and the balance sheet of the country has been imbalanced. So this is the problem of the country that they have to solve. And the production of money and credit in order to resolve these debts. So there's a huge possibility or probability of inflation in the future, where the government would be printing too much money to pay the debts that they borrow from other countries. So this is like repetition of the Great Depression in the 1930s, and also there's a large fiscal deficits. Next will be the impact on youth and education. So there's a reduction of the importance of attendance of the universities because of the social distancing and the new normal. There are online courses and classes from home. So that's more accessibility to education. Anyone can access education. You don't have to attend university or schools to have education anymore. You can access it anywhere, anyhow, and can study whatever you want to learn, whatever you like, without joining the physical classes. And it opened up the opportunities to learn new skills and knowledges to increase self-productivity. But then the negative impact is that there has been a low social context, affecting negatively on the social relations and connections and networks, because there has been less socializing, and the researchers found that it is more difficult for the newly graduate to find themselves what they want to do in the future after the graduation, because they lose the opportunity to interact with people and find out what they really want to do after graduation. So there's no network, no connections, no social relations or inspirations for them to find themselves, because most of the graduated students, they after the graduation, they still do not know what they want to do in the future, what kind of job they want to do. So they go out and find themselves, but then because of the pandemic, they are not allowed to do it anymore. So there might be a huge change in this kind of lifestyle. And also the high youth and unemployment rate. After graduation, they cannot find job anymore because there's like less availability of the job. So they are struggling to find employment and money and income as well. Next, on the impact on the internal industries. So the country with emerging economies fail to provide the basic needs to their people. So because there has to be more reliance on domestic production to fulfill the domestic demand of the consumers in the market. So it is necessary to increase the capacity of production of their own production system and industrial manufacturing to answer to the demand of the domestic consumers themselves. And the shrinking of economy, especially in the industrial and manufacturing sectors, because there has been less trading activities, so many factories has been closing due to the high cost of production. And the developing country who actually face multiple economic hardships, for example, the freezing in the production of the garment, because they have to avoid the clustering of the workers because of the social distancing as a prevention measure of the virus. So it affects both the production of the goods and also the employment of these laborers, of the workers. So some country also has to reserve the resources for the domestic consumer. So there has been a reduction in trade activities, like the stuff that normally is used to trade with other products has to be reserved inside the country itself, so that the people in the country would be able to consume it. Lastly, in order to survive, there are things that we have to adapt. The first thing is we have to be the innovators. So we have to have creativities in many aspects, such as finding the way to entering this new market, this new world order, adapting into this new business era. And also we have to keep on constantly increasing the productivity of ourselves, because now we cannot travel to work as usual. So we have to learn more of the skills like soft skills, data analysis, or other skills that are required in improving our own standard of life. We also have to increase our own competitiveness, because it has been even more competitive in the labor market and in the business sectors. So we have to be one step ahead of other people in order to survive this crisis. We also have to be self-sufficiency. Countries that rely heavily on another country has been suffering a great deal, because those countries themselves are still trying to survive their own problems in the country. So there has been less assistance from the countries. So now the ones that rely a lot on other people, they have to start relying on themselves and increase the sufficiency of their own country. And adaptation. You have to adapt fast to any situation in the future, because the world has been changing rapidly and tragically. So in order to survive in this world, you have to adapt to to everything that comes in your way, and you have to understand the cause and effects of everything, because because the faster you understand it, the faster you know what to do with it. And also the awareness, increasing of the awareness. For example, being aware of the value of money, the value of cash that is going to deflate in the future, that is going to drop a lot in the future, so you have to convert your own cash into some other investment that will actually benefit you in the future, and as a substitution of the cash that you carry. But then you have to be aware of it as well. You have to carefully think about the investment that you're going to do in the future. You cannot be reckless. You have to think twice. You have to think thrice. You have to be more considering of the spending that you're going to put your cash into. And also help is the question whether the country will be helping one another or surviving on its own. So it's important to have a global coordination and cooperation in order to fight this pandemic and the economic crisis together. So international support is important because one country cannot survive on its own, and it's better to help each other to survive this crisis. And no country actually survive on its own, because there has been reliance of at least like for trading globalization with other countries in the world. So it's better to have like cooperation and coordination between them instead of trying to survive on its own. So that's the end of my presentation, and thank you for listening.